I want to talk about three stories that really challenge the idea that access alone keeps people safe. Because when we think about delayed care, we often assume it's about not having insurance or not being able to afford a doctor or not knowing where to go. But these next stories remind us that even when you have money, influence, and elite medical access, care can still be delayed, dismissed, or ignored. Let's start with Serena Williams. After giving birth to her daughter via emergency C section, Serena Williams noticed something was wrong. She felt short of breath. She had a history of blood clots. She knew her body. So she did exactly what we tell people to do. She spoke up. She told the medical team she thought she was having a pulmonary embolism. She asked for a CT scan. She asked for blood thinners, and instead of being heard, she was dismissed. A nurse suggested she was confused because of pain medication. It wasn't until Serena insisted, nurse Serena, and so demanded that a doctor be called, that they ran the test. And when they did, they found multiple life threatening blood clots in her lungs. Serena has said plainly, if she hadn't pushed back, she might not be here today. That's not delayed care because of ignorance. That's delayed care because of dismissal. When you hear Serena's story, what hits you the hardest? The medical emergency itself, or the fact that she had to fight to be taken seriously? It's not just that she had a life threatening emergency, it's that she knew what was happening and still had to convince someone to listen. That changes how people show up to care the next time, because once you realize your voice might not matter, like even in an emergency, hesitation starts to feel like self protection. And then there's Brett Favre. He's talked openly about experiencing hundreds, maybe thousands of concussions during his NFL career. At the time, they weren't called traumatic brain injuries. They were getting your bell rung. They were part of the game. So he played through them. Most players did. Years later, Brett Favre announced he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, or a condition increasingly linked to repeated head trauma. Looking back, he said plainly, those concussions were never treated seriously, and he believes they played a role in where he is today. That's delayed care rooted in culture, a culture that rewarded toughness, a culture that minimized invisible injuries, a culture that taught athletes, especially men, to keep going at all costs. How much do you think sports culture and honestly masculinity in general teaches men to ignore warning signs until the damage is already done? That's such an important point because in that culture, ignoring pain isn't seen as risky. It's seen as respectable. You're praised for pushing through, you're rewarded for silence. And by the time someone finally says, hey, something's wrong, the damage is already, and that mindset doesn't stay on the field. It follows men into real life, into doctors' offices, and into years of delayed care. Let's take a quick break to hear from today's sponsor.